A lot of my friends in computer science recently told me that they got asked to make an analog clock during their technical interview. So today we'll make one using pure CSS and JavaScript. No images, no SVGs. Also, why make a normal analog clock? A lot of wristwatches nowadays have the date and day functionality. So let's begin. Watch till the end for a bonus tip. We will start with the container div. Inside, add a div with the class of clock. Next, create 3 divs, one for each clock hand, and put an I tag inside each. The hand div handles positioning and rotation, while the I tag takes care of the styling. For each number on the clock, we will add a span with the class of nums containing a B tag. And yes, there is a CSS custom property here. Why? Well, stick around and you'll find out when we are styling this. First, let's define root variables for our clock hands. Then give the page a dark background and center everything. This is all handled inside the home page and container div. For the clock div, we'll make it 300 by 300 pixels and add a glow using a shadow. Give it a round shape with a border radius. We'll use flexbox for centering and some 3D rotation for positioning numbers. To style the numbers, set the position to absolute with an inset of 12 pixels. And remember those custom properties? We'll rotate each number by 30 degrees so that they are at the correct position on the clock face, and at the end give it a text align of center so that everything is neatly inside the clock's circumference. We'll use the rotate property to rotate the B tags inside the spans back 30 degrees so that they are correctly placed on the clock. Next, we'll give the clock face a center point which will hold the hands together using a simple pseudo element. And for each hand on the clock, we will set their height using their IDs and then give them all a color, width and round their edges. To make sure the hands center correctly on the clock face, we'll use flexbox with align items of flex end so that the I tag aligns with the base. We'll also add a transform origin of center bottom so that the rotation happens like a real clock hand. A transition smooths out the ticking motion, but it's optional, totally your call. And finally, translate X at minus 50% to recenter it horizontally. The hard part's over, now for the easy bit. Grab all your hand divs using getElementById, create a display time function and get the current date from which we will extract the hours, minutes and seconds. And now we have to find the rotation angles for each of our hands. For the hour hand, we'll multiply the hours by 30 degrees because there's 360 degrees on the clock and there's 12 hours. You get the point. And then we'll add the minutes value divided by 2 because each minute the hour hand moves by 0.5 degrees. For the minute hand, we will just multiply the minutes value by 6 and we'll do the same exact for seconds. And now we will apply these rotations to the hands using style.transform. We'll use the set interval to call the display time every 100 milliseconds and that's it. You've got yourself an analog clock. But why stop there? Let's create that day-date function I talked about earlier. So go back to your HTML and create 2 new divs inside the clock div, class 1 as date and the other as day. Inside the date div, create 2 spans with the ID of date 0 and date 1. These 2 will be used to display the 2 digits of each date. Inside the day div, add a span with the ID of day. Go back to your CSS file and start styling the date div first. We'll position it absolute in the right middle of the clock face. Then we'll add some styling to make it fit with the theme. And finally, we'll create a flexbox layout for the date spans inside the div. Talking about the date spans, let's style them next. We'll give them a nice white color and a fitting font like monospace. We'll make their font a little bit bigger and add some padding to them. Finally, we will give it a linear gradient to create depth and make it look like a real clock face. Moving on to the day div, copy the same styling from the date div, but instead of the 3 flexbox properties, just add a text align of center. And for the span inside the day div, copy the same styling as the date spans, and that is it for the CSS. Moving back to JavaScript, reference all the newly created spans using their IDs, create a new function for setting the day and date. Inside it, create a new date and fetch the current date out of it using the getDate method. Now if today's date is between 1 and 9, we need to pad a 0 to the start to make it 2 digits. Now just assign the value of the span by replacing the inner text value. For the day function, fetch the day from the date we created earlier using the getDay method, which returns a number from 0 to 6. 0 being Sunday and 6 being Saturday. And since we need to display the day in the form of their first 3 characters, we will create an array with all those values at their corresponding indices. Then just assign the value of the spans in a text by using the array we just created. Finally, just call this function at startup and then every 1 minute. And there you have it, a fully functional analog clock with a day-date mechanism. But wait, there's even more. Here's the bonus tip. Let's say you come across a pretentious interviewer who couldn't even make a digital clock to save their lives, and they tell you to make a clock work using only CSS. Don't worry, there is a way. Well, kind of. We just need to create CSS animations to simulate the movement of all three hands, which is pretty simple as you can see here. We'll add these animations to all three hands, but we will change the easing function for the second hand to make it tick. And there you have it, a working clock using only CSS, apart from the fact that it cannot tell the correct time intentionally. The complete code is available in the description, and while you are there, please consider leaving a star on the repo. It makes me happy. And thank you for watching. See you guys next time.